Burt Breer, the big story around here, obviously, is the promotion of Drake Maye. Let's start. First of all, why was it announced on Tuesday?
Well, it was announced on Tuesday.
Oh, no. It came out on Tuesday. Okay, let's start with this way. You're right. It wasn't announced on Tuesday. It came out leaked on Tuesday.
Leaked on Tuesday.
How does that happen?
I think leaked is the wrong word.
Explain.
A lot of times, you'll see the aggregation websites. Like I'll say it. Like Mike Florio does it some. Like where I don't like that term because it's always if somebody else is reporting it, it's leaked. But then if you report it, it's good reporting.
Well, Florio, you keep defending him. Florio's awful.
But leak
with the dumb Aaron Rodgers. He's a jerk.
The problem with the word leak is that it assumes that somebody just handed it to you and you're being used.
Right.
Whereas if you're just digging into and reporting and doing your job, that's something completely different. Which,
sure.
I think that it's possible this was leaked. I think what's more likely based on the timeline, because look, like if you're going to make this change, if you're Gerard Mayo, then you make the change on Monday. The reason why is because the coaches spend the entire day Tuesday game planning. So the decision's going to be made before you come into the office on Tuesday to start game planning for the next opponent. Normally in a situation like this, like if you're in my position, you're digging around looking for this sort of thing, and it could be like, but what it also could be, and I said this yesterday on the midday show, is Adam and Ian digging around, and Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett know the news. So maybe each of them tells 5 teammates, right? Now, not only do the 5 teammates know, but maybe the 5 teammates' agents now know. And it's like a game of telephone in a middle school cafeteria. Before you know it, not a ton of people know, but maybe 60 people know. And then Ian or Adam talk to 2 of those 60 people. And then they go back to the team, and then the team says, well, hold on a second. Can you please do us a solid here? We'll let you break it, but will you please do us a solid here and hold it until 1 o'clock on Tuesday or 2 o'clock on Tuesday, just so we can tell everybody who needs to know and it doesn't become a problem internally. A lot of times that's the way these things will happen. So it looks like it's leaked because those 2 are simul-tweeting or whatever, Okay. But in a lot of cases, it can be that they dug around for a while, and then there's an embargo on it the team puts on it because, oh God, they found out. Like, let's see if we can manage this a little bit.
Fair enough, thank you. Now, let's ask this.
Yeah.
Because ideally do you think that they would have held off that announcement until before the game? If not internally, but externally, if they could have.
Because I don't think that sounds good. And I've heard people say oh yeah, you can do that. I think at the college level, you can do that. You've seen college teams pull it off. I just think at the pro level, it doesn't work because reporters are in the locker room every day and you're asking your players to keep this secret, which is kind of, I don't know. These guys are grown men. You know what I mean? Now you're asking these guys to keep this secret for 6 days and not tell anybody. And then if it gets out in a weird way, it makes you look like a clown show. In a lot of cases, it's just better to announce it and have a unified front behind a guy. So you're not sending, in this case, you're not sending Jacoby Brissett up there for a press conference where he's got to pretend that he's still the starting quarterback when he knows he's not.
And it's probably more likely to have one of the players tell somebody about it if there is a fair amount of dissent in there right now. Not a mutiny, push back on the word mutiny all you want, but I think there were plenty of people in there who thought things weren't going in the right direction, and if you're going to make a change, even if
it's also kind of like a BS request to Jacoby Brissett too, wouldn't it be?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's like, oh yeah, you're benched. By the way, can you keep our secret for 6 days?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just on paper, it makes sense. Let's not let the Texans know who we're starting at quarterback. The execution of it's a lot different than that. Now, if you have 2 guys who are sort of competing for a job, that's different. Then you can probably manage that a little bit. Right. But if you've just benched a guy it's a little bit more difficult to say, oh, yeah, by the way, don't tell anyone.
And Brissett did not take this well, so I
think he's
see it.
fine, though.
Well,
he was
based on
honest about it, which no one's going to like.
No,
that
that's
news.
true. But
Yeah.
based on what I saw at his press conference yesterday, where he's telling the media it's really tough to go through this, you don't usually see that from a bench quarterback, regardless of how good a teammate
I
he
appreciate
is.
that honesty, though. I mean, like that's part of the deal. Which Jacoby's a good guy. Like I have no problem with how
I'm
he
just
handles it
saying
all.
what you're saying is right because Brissett would not be able to hold himself to, I'm looking forward to starting based on his reaction to this news. That was my point.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think it would be unfair to ask him to, again, like be an actor for 6 days for the benefit of a coaching staff.
That was a good explanation of why it came out when it did. All right, why are they doing it now?
Because Drake Maye is the best quarterback on the team. I disagree with the timing, but I think that, and if you've listened to me talk about it the last couple of weeks, I think that this really started to. There's been momentum going for this for a while. Drake Maye's really built on the progress he made over the summer, and the last couple of weeks, that last piece of it, I think for him was like handling the blitz in practice. So they've been creative in finding ways to get him reps. That 30% number was out there, what they were doing. And this is part of the benefit of having Jacoby as your starting quarterback was Jacoby was so comfortable with so many of the things that Alex Van Pelt was doing that there were spots in practice where they could say, Jacoby's done this a million times. Let's pull him out and give those reps to Drake. So that was where Drake was getting his first team reps. He was working with the scout team, which allowed him to go against an NFL defense. Although he wasn't running the Patriots offense on a day-to-day basis, they pulled him out of scout team some to do individual work on the Patriots offense with T.C. McCartney. And the last piece of this was really learning to deal with the blitz, which is going to be a big deal for him because of the way that teams have attacked the Patriots and in particular
Houston
their offensive line.
specifically.
Well, we were talking
So-
about yesterday. Houston blitzed Caleb Williams like 43% of the time. They hit him
Will
12
Anderson
times.
and Daniil Hunter had like 17 hurries between the two of them.
Yeah, like he
Crazy.
was pressured on over 50% of his
wild,
dropbacks. Yeah. And he threw a lot.
So, like, I think that was a piece of it, was the progress May made. I think the other piece of it was Jacoby Brissett just didn't play as well as they anticipated he would.
Okay.
And I think, like, it became harder to sell Jacoby Brissett to the team. Now, again, like, I think you can manage that for a week to get past this opponent. That's why.
That's the timing. I think that's what Fred asked, and I get it. The Drake Maye even right now they feel is going to be the better quarterback, but the timing of it still is bad.
Seems like you didn't have a plan.
And that's why I think, and that's why I just, again, like, it's hard to say if they were going to go through the entire year like this, and Drake Maye was clearly the better quarterback, right? Because there's a difference between, he's always the most talented quarterback. Mm-hmm. I had a guy I know in the Patriots building whose dad was a coach, and his dad came through in the spring and got a chance to see a practice. And he told me the story. His dad comes to practice and says, number 10 is your best quarterback. It's clear to everybody it's the most talented guy. You know what I mean? From the very beginning, he was the third pick in the draft.
Right.
That's natural. Being the best quarterback for the team is a different thing, and that's what's happened more recently. And I do think, like, the idea of redshirting him became impossible because he was becoming the best quarterback on the team. So I think selling that to a bunch of players who don't care about your 3-year plan, who don't care about they don't care about what's right for the development of Drake Maye. What they care about is their ability to make money and win games right now. And if Drake Maye was going to give them the best chance to do that, then it was going to get harder to sell Jacoby Brissett to the locker room. I still think you could have managed that for a couple more weeks to not throw him out there against the Texans.
All right, let me ask you two things then. And they're back-to-back. First is Drake Maye, the big problem with him coming out was he had a crappy offensive coordinator at North Carolina's last year there. His footwork was all messed up. He had bad mechanics.
Yep.
They needed to work with him like that. Is there a fear that when you put him in a situation like he's going to be in on Sunday where he's getting rushed a lot, he's going to have to, they want him to. I mean, he's going to have to throw off schedule. He's going to have to take off and run. That few games of that, everything that you've worked with and accomplished him is going to go out the window because when
There should be.
Yeah.
There
Okay.
should be. I mean, you saw it 3 years ago in New York, right? Where, I mean, effectively Zach Wilson became Chuck Knobloch trying to make the throw to second.
Yep. Yeah, you
Throw
got
from
the yips
second.
for real.
I mean, he really did. Like,
Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean,
good comparison.
But that, like, it's just if you put a young quarterback in in this sort of scenario where it becomes untenable, you can really cause a problem for him. And there's a ton of examples. I think David Carr in Houston is probably the classic example, but I think the main thing about like having a guy like this on a bad team, it's what's around him, of course, but it's also, are you constantly putting him in bad down and distance? Is he constantly playing from behind? Because if a young quarterback is nonstop playing in pass first situations, what that means is the defense can throw the kitchen sink at him.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, if things are happening it can become really bad really fast. And so that's what I think is going to be interesting. That's what people should watch on Sunday. How often are they in 3rd and 13? Are they down by 14 points right away? And then how do they manage that going forward? Because that's the other part of it that really is complicated and challenging, is if you're a coach and, again, you've got a roster full of players who don't care about your 3-year plan, and now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 18, and you're running a draw to protect the young quarterback, how do you think the rest of the roster is going to accept that?
Yeah. And
It's just complicated.
yeah, I know it is, but my concern wouldn't be the roster except for the people I had long term, and they're already been taken care of. All right, my question is this though. We've been discussing this since before the season started. Why did the Patriots, again, Tyquan Thornton played 1 snap last week. Mm-hmm. If they were so keen on keeping Joe Milton on this roster, fine. Why didn't they hold 4 quarterbacks? Why didn't they have another veteran quarterback? Because if this was not the plan to start Drake Maye this soon, and if this is not the ideal situation, if Brissett was struggling, they could at least put someone else in there for a game or two.
Well, if this is about selling to the locker room that you're giving them the very best chance to win, then what quarterback was going to stick around here in that situation that would fit into that category, that would be good enough where you could say this is still, even though we're moving away from Jacoby Brissett, this guy over here is still a better option than Drake Maye.
I guess. I mean,
It doesn't alleviate that problem.
Well, no, but it could alleviate it temporarily.
Let me just I think that this is an important thing, and I've referenced my chart a million times, and I'm sure you guys don't need to hear it again. But 48 quarterbacks drafted over 16 draft cycles from 08 to 23, 3 true red shirts. The 3 true red shirts were Locker in 11, Mahomes in 17, Love in 20. Those 3 guys had 2 things in common. The first thing is they were all 3 played for contending teams. The second thing, they all had established guys in front of them. Matt Hasselbeck with the Titans, who was a Super Bowl quarterback, Alex Smith with the Chiefs over Mahomes, and then Rodgers in Green Bay in 2020, over Love. So in all of those circumstances, it wasn't like there wasn't a quarterback where it's like, oh, yeah, like that guy's just whatever. It was an established veteran quarterback. So even if the rookie looked impressive in practice, you could keep selling Matt Hasselbeck or Alex Smith or Aaron Rodgers to the locker room. And I think that this had just reached an expiration date.
Okay,
At least
but
that's my perception of it.
Yeah, I didn't say that you'd have to redshirt him. I just said you didn't have to play him in week 6.
Right.
Against a team that's going to
But then what's
conceivably.
the difference? But then what's the difference? I mean, then it's like, then it's just like, all right, like let's convince the locker room. My point is, I understand it would have been hard to convince the locker room for the next 2 months. I think for the next week you could probably do it.
Yeah. But also, what's the difference is that I don't put him out there against Houston in his first NFL game to have him run for his life. The chances of that happening.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying.
What's the difference? Right, on the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, what's the difference? I don't know who's out there. I'd have to look up because I don't think you're getting a Tannehill here, but whoever that name is of that guy, whoever your Chase Daniel would be for this week, right? what's the difference between throwing that guy out there and Jacoby Brissett out there for another week?
I'd rather, quite honestly, this is just being kind of a smartass, but I'm not. Chase Daniel, I'd much rather have than Jacoby Brissett.
He wasn't bad. Yeah.
I'd rather have Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
Rather have Tannehill.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Well, Tannehill is like, I think
Yeah, I know, but he wouldn't have
Tannehill's
come
a
here.
different class of quarterback.
Yeah, he wouldn't have come here.
I think the only way.
I'd rather have Mike White. I mean, there's like guys that like I would have been.
I think Tannehill's like on like the Joe Flacco plan from last year, which
Yes.
is like he's waiting for
cherry
someone.
pick.
Yeah, which is like, let's see if there's a situation that opens up. But he's not coming in to be somebody. The reason he wouldn't have gone to Miami is because that might only be for a few weeks.
Exactly.
Like he was waiting for the sort of situation where, all right, I'm going to go and I'm going to be the quarterback of that team for the rest of the year.
See, Blaine Gabbert, Matt Barkley,
Gabbert's actually not a bad
I'd rather
name.
have Blaine Gabbert than Jacoby Brissett.
Trevor Simeon somewhere. I think Simeon's a free
Simeon
agent.
is not good.
Yeah.
I might rather have
Ben
Jacoby
DiNucci.
Brissett.
All right.
I don't know who even knows who that is.
Gabbert's
Gabbert's Brady's guy.
Yeah,
From the
well,
parade.
I get what Bert is saying.
Brady, like Gabbert was like your friend who takes care of you when you're drunk for Brady at the parade.
Brady was so drunk at that parade.
You don't think so, Fred?
He was drunk like a 15-year-old girl at a party drinking apple cider.
Yeah,
being told it's Ripple.
We used to like our term in college for that was like we call it getting high school drunk.
Yeah, high school drunk.
Yeah, getting high school drunk.
I think that was a universal term.
Was it? Okay. I had only heard it from my friends. I'm dead serious. I only heard that term from my friends in college.
I get what you're saying though.
And from one particular town to Upper Arlington, Ohio.
If you have the veteran quarterback, which I was calling for too, it would have made more sense. Don't put him in there yet. But it's going to extend this out at least, I would think, unless he gets hurt. Like you can't put a guy in there in that position and give him less than 3 starts legitimately. Like if you've got a guy that you think is good enough to take over the position and maybe keep you competitive and keep the locker room in a healthy space.
No, it can't be a sham where it's like
you got to give him a legitimate chance. And now you're well into November.
Oh no. I mean, you could play him against the Texans, and if he struggles, play him in London, and then if it doesn't go well, you could start May against the Jets, and that's the second time you saw him. I don't think you're under any obligation, and then you cut the guy. So I mean, no, I don't agree with that at all. Because then Brissett backs up May, and then you have your whole thing again. They should have gone into the season with the veteran backup in case Brissett got hurt or this happened, and then they had to get off the plan.
Zappy, they must have hated Zappy because he fits all of these qualifications. I mean, he was with him. He was with him,
and he started for you before. So
in the locker room, the locker room knows him. He's won a game.
I mean, they must have really hated him because
they really wanted him to have a real opportunity somewhere. I don't think they're out there doing players solids all the time, but maybe that was part of the calculus.
I also think, I think NFL teams overvalue single roster spots a little too much. I think that, and I think that's what you were getting at earlier, Fred. It's just, it's less people than you think it is. Because you get the 46 that you have dressed on game day. You get to that number really quick where you have to have starters playing on special teams, which doesn't exist in college, right? So 46 is not a huge number for a football team, but still, you can find ways around that if you want to manage a quarter, especially when you're a bad team that you're going to be a 3 or a 4 or a 5 win team, and it's just. The more important thing's managing.
Having a 6th receiver is not going to be the difference.
Seventh receiver
is not going to be the difference between winning or losing, especially when they play one snap. I'm with you, Bert.
But in a lot of cases, it is. In a lot of cases, those last roster spots are held for, you brought up Tyquan Thornton. It's a perfect example. It's held. A lot of times those last roster spots belong to guys who the team invested in one way or another, and they want to give them one more shot.
Or they want.
They don't have a real way to use them, but they want to just make sure.
Come on.
They don't want to be. They don't. Well, but what it is.
Or they might want to trade them.
They might want to trade them. They might want to trade him, or it's just like, God, I don't want to be the guy who let him go, and then 3 months from now he breaks through.
I think
let's
you've
be
seen
honest.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, you've had your shot with Taekwondo.
Yeah,
Honestly, how many chances is that guy going to have?
But even if he went somewhere else and succeeded, I mean, that's just what I mean. It was going to happen.
He was
sooner or
never
later.
going to succeed here.
No,
he
and-
may catch one fly pattern, may catch one 80-yard touchdown where no one bumps him at the line of scrimmage
Has
and
he
he's
done
able
that?
to run by him. No,
he hasn't done
That's
that.
what you're holding out hope for. You're not holding out hope he's going to catch a slant.
I like him because his legs are my size, and you almost never see that in professional sports. All right.